even the people, even the people who are called themselves in the land, who calls themselves Israelis or Jews, they're not the people spoken of in the book. Now they're in the book, but they're referred to as Edomites. We know them as Edomites.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be able to identify the people. You have to be able to identify the lands that the people dwelled in. You have to understand what the people, the phenotype, how the people looked, how they appeared. You know, even when back in the days when I think it was Yahoseph, not Yahoseph. I'm trying to think of who it was. Man, that's terrible. But the people had said the Canaanites. This was when Israel was in Egypt, and they went to bury
Isaac.
It
Went
was
to bury Isaac. It went to bury Isaac. Yeah.
And what the Canaanites had said about the horse, they said this is a terrible day for the Egyptians.
Yeah.
For the Egyptians. Now, the Canaanites were looking at Israelites, maybe a few Egyptians were with them, but they're looking at Israelites and they thought they were Egyptians because the way they dressed. But as far as the people looked similar. You know, yeah, you couldn't be. I mean, it's just like Pharaoh when he ordered the death of the firstborn of Israel, of the Hebrews, and then his daughter had saw Moses in the
the crib.
Yeah. The death of the males. The death of the males. Yeah.
You know, when they saw him in the, and she identified him as wait a minute, I want to keep him. They let him keep him. I mean, Israel, look, the people of Israel looked much like we do today, probably darker, you know, in some respect. But they look much like we look today. They were our ancestors, you know, and we can't let another people try to claim our ancestry, you know. Also, you can't let them claim our heritage. Now, you have these people who are in the land, our land that was given to us, and they say that they're the people.
Well, did it say the land is going to be barren?
Yes, it's going to be barren, and trust me, it is barren. Now, I've been to the land of Israel back in 2009. Okay. I visited the land of Israel. I've been there, and it is barren. It's mostly desert. Now, that doesn't sound like a land flowing with milk and honey. Well, it's barren because y'all left it. You know, the people were kicked out. I'm sure everything dried up, you know, and it's not looking anything how it once looked when they came in. When they came in, they saw a rich land, hills, grassy hills, trees in abundance, rivers and fountains, ponds and lakes in abundance to sustain their cattle. Remember, they came out of the desert into with plenty of cattle and livestock. They had to eat, they had to graze. So they came into a rich land. But if you go there now, all you got mostly desert. You know, there's a few areas that look like it's productive, of course, because they grow their food over there, but it doesn't look the same. I'm sure America looks nothing like how it once looked when the Aboriginal people here in America inhabited the land. I'm sure that the landscape has changed tremendously. Just in 100 years, you know, within a few hundred years, the landscape has changed dramatically. So certainly the land is barren. It is barren. I can say that.
The part where the Israelis are now,
yeah,
that's part of the land of Canaan, right?
Yes, the land of Canaan, where the Israelis are now. That was anciently known as the land of Canaan, the Canaan land. Yes, the Canaanites' land. It was taken from them. And it's mighty funny that these Israelis, no sooner than we wake up to find out who we are, that, hey, we're Israel, all of a sudden they have they're in haste to go over to the land to guard it, to make sure we don't come in. You know, I mean, that's what's going on. They didn't go to Africa. Oh, we got to go and make sure they don't come in. Why they didn't go to Africa?
They considered it.
No, they was going to get sent to Kenya the first time.
Yeah, they were going to go in parts of Africa. They looked at Kenya. They looked at parts of Uganda.
Yeah.
And a couple of the other African states, so to speak. And then they eventually settled into what we would call Palestine right now. There's a couple of things for me that I've heard the arguments, because there's this guy, I'm trying to look for him. I still might. I need to go find my phone. He was presenting his case for why he feels that Utah, he's stating that the Mount Nebo and everything else. Funny enough, the Hebrew words for Salt Lake, there's a Salt Lake also in Utah, and it's the same words for Salt Sea. So it seems to be a parity there, to where someone has named these areas in a similar fashion.
Well, remember there was the Israelites there. The Israelites was there, so maybe the name came from the Israelites what was there before. Because the natives, there was the Israelites.
That's a good point. That's something that I have not heard. I think that's a very valid point. The Most High made it plain that, you know, he was going to place his name in one place, and there would be a controversy over Zion. I don't see anyone fighting over Utah. I know good and well the controversy that we see over Zion, it's something that's known by everyone worldwide.
Right.
I don't see any controversy over anything that's in Utah. And maybe because of this talk of Utah possibly being the Holy Land or whatever, that might be why the Latter-day Saints are sitting out there, the Mormons. That may be why they have their church out there. I don't know, but certainly, if Utah is going to be the Holy Land, you've got to show me where Egypt, Iran, Iraq, and all of these surrounding nations that were in walking distance. You've got to show me exactly where those are on the North American landscape. Now, what I have not done, it would be interesting to see if we were to take the map and bring it back together like Pangea prior to the great earthquake, and see exactly how things look, or how it looked back then. Right. Because I would assume that if we were living on one landmass before the great earthquake, then I would assume that you would have Israelites living in separate parts of the earth, for the simple fact, many of us fled from the Holy Land. That way we would not have to obey the law, statutes, judgments, and precepts.
Yeah. I just talked
Dawid.
Dawid, he's just coming on.
Yeah, he's connecting.
He's connecting. That's it. I got more maps.
Okay.
Brother Dawid, how you doing?
Hey, peace. Y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Peace and y'all.
You hear me?
Yeah, you could hear.
Peace and y'all.
Peace. Okay, good. Let's pray to y'all that this connection work good, fellas. I'm in my house. It's Shabbat here, so.
Oh, is it? Yeah, that's right. Hey,
10:30.
Dawid, I would like you to bear witness to something I told the brothers before you came in. Now, you've been to the land of Israel, and I've been to the land of Israel back in 2009.
Okay.
Brother Henry said that, but the land is supposed to be barren. And I told him it is barren. It's mostly desert. You see some greenery, but it's mostly desert. Am I right?
Basically, I was in the Negev desert. I was in Mispeh Ramon, and I was in God. And
I've been to Mispeh too.
You've been to these places, you'll see it's desert.
It's desert.
Most of that is all desert. Now, when I used to take walks, I used to take walks out there in the mountains. You can see the riverbanks that used to be water. And you can tell by the soil and the rocks that it used to be a whole lot of water flowing through there, but now it's desolate. Yeah, so I'm a bear witness to that.
Yeah, so I have a witness that I'm not lying to you.
No,
Well, I know
no.
y'all don't think I'm lying, but I'm just saying I have a witness. Now we have two witnesses, someone who is presently there, you know, in a region, and someone who has been there before. Oh, that land is barren. I can't imagine that region being a land flowing with milk and honey. It's barren, man. I mean, it's desert. You got to be kidding me. You know, even in the scriptures, Yah tells us that, you know, it's not going to be like the Egyptians, the land y'all just came out with. This land is already hooked up with the stuff that's already growing there. You don't have to plant anything. Everything is already there for you. So why would he have said that to a land that's barren now? I tell you, from what I see, I've heard the arguments about Utah. I've heard the arguments about Africa, you know, parts of Africa being the site of where we were. But I echo what my brother Malachi had just said. You would have to show me, because it says it in Genesis 15, verse 18. You know, Yah says it plainly to Abram when he promised him the land. He said, you know, you and your descendants, y'all gonna have this land. And in the same day that the Yah made a covenant with Abram, saying, unto thee, unto thy seed, I given this land from the river Egypt, which is a great river Euphrates. Now you got to identify those places in Utah. Where's the river Euphrates?
Here's some of the arguments that I've heard. Now, we just spoke of how, both of you gentlemen just spoke of how your brothers did mention the riverbeds and the water and things like that, and it being barren. Now, those who are going to claim and actually back up the Utah claim is going to say, well, the area where they're stating is also barren. So they're going to state that. Now, as it pertains to water, many are saying that the Nile River is actually the Mississippi River. I don't know if you've heard that. So not only are we dealing with those who are stating that the Holy Land is in Utah, that's one, but now we have the brother that's in the land that's stating that our gathering place is also in the Philippines. So, I mean, when you start listening to all these many different conflicting ideas, my thing that I'm sticking with is the fact that I don't see, like I said, my main thing here is there's no contention at all for Utah as there is the contention that's known worldwide for Zion.
Right.
For that landmass.
This is my argument here. Now, for a land, the land of Israel has been the most coveted piece of land known to mankind in history since y'all put his name there. Now, I ask people, if the land has changed, how come Syria is still Syria, Lebanon is still Lebanon, Egypt is still Egypt, the Wadi Araris is still the Wadi Araris, which is the true name of the river of Egypt. A lot of people think that the river of Egypt is the Nile River, but no, the Nile River is actually the river of Ethiopia, because the Nile River is the most unique river on this earth. It actually flows from south to north.
Right.
So it's from Ethiopia and it flows upward and it flows into the Mediterranean. So that's one thing I always get confused about. The Red Sea still the Red Sea, the Salt Sea still the Salt Sea, the Mediterranean still the Mediterranean. You know, now, when I was in the land, because I heard these arguments, a lot of people were saying, because I heard an argument in the land while I was there, you had a few brothers that was in a rod that was saying Jerusalem was actually in Tel Arad. So, you know, I was hearing that argument, and I was also hearing the argument that the land of Israel was not the land of Israel. So what I did was I just went to the main source. I went to the book, you know, and I studied the book of Joshua, and the book of Joshua gives us the landmarks, and it gives each tribe by its lot, and it describes it to the letter, you know, the borders of these tribes. I was telling Brother Henry earlier in the week, I told I didn't want to go too deep into it. I'd rather wait till I actually get on the call to explain this. So what I did was I did some traveling through the land, and we were staying in a rod. Now, when you look at Joshua chapter 15, the 5th verse, it gives you the borders of Yehuda, or commonly called Judah. And it gives its most northernest border. The northern border, it stops where the Jordan River meets where the Jordan River flows into the Dead Sea, or with the Salt Sea, commonly called the Salt Sea. That's the utmost northern border you're going to get to Yehuda, or commonly called Judah.
Right.
Now, Judah and Benjamin meet at this same point. Benjamin, as it's going to talk about, and I think it's Joshua chapter 18. When you get down there, I think it's verse 18 through 19, something like that. But it talks about the most southernest border of Benjamin. Now, Benjamin, the most southern border is when the Dead Sea, same thing as Yehuda or Judah, it meets where the Jordan, it stops where the Jordan River meets the Salt Sea. So what we did was we drove up it's called Route 90, and that takes you all the way up the coast of the Salt Sea. And once we got to the Salt Sea, we saw where the Jordan River actually flowed into the Salt Sea. So then we went 30 kilometers west. And when you go 30 kilometers east, that's where Jerusalem is. And we all know that Jerusalem sits in the midst of Benjamin and Yehuda. So it has to meet that point. And that's how we was able to find out where the true land of the true city of Jerusalem was. And also that substantiates in the book of Joshua that land is actually the land. Now, I had just had a discussion with a brother that was saying that the land was in South Africa. He said it was in Namibia. So I asked him, I said, okay, well, show me where on that map where the Jordan River meets the so-called Salt Sea, or the Salt Sea in that area. And once you get to that meeting point, I need you to go at least 30 kilometers west, and you shall find the city of Jerusalem. Now, if it doesn't meet that, then it doesn't substantiate Joshua chapter 15, verse 5, and Joshua chapter 18, the 18th and the 19th verse. So even in, saying that's in Utah, you got to show me where the Jordan River meets the Salt Sea.
Right.
And then you have to show me what the 30 kilometers west, the city of Jerusalem has to be in that same point. And if it's not in that same point, then you can't substantiate that what you say in the land is the land.
Right. So, thank you.
Well, Dawid, let me show you this map.
Yeah.
I screenshotted the map. It says Jerusalem. Okay. Let me see, share screen. I think is it this one? I'm not sure if it's this one. Can you see that one?
Yes.
That's where they say Jerusalem is, where the mark is.
That's Jerusalem, right? So like I said before, Jerusalem sits right in the middle. Benjamin is actually North Jerusalem. South Jerusalem is Yehuda. So it has to sit in between those two tribes. Now, I just gave you the most southernest border of Benjamin, and that's in Joshua chapter 18, the back end. And I gave you the most northernest border of Yehuda. Yeah. And that's in Joshua chapter 15. So now, because Jerusalem sits in the midst, you have to find the most southernest border of Benjamin and the most northern border of Yehuda. And if you go east, you shall see the Jordan River, where the Jordan River and the Salt Sea meet. Because the Jordan River flows into the Salt Sea. That's where the Salt Sea gets its water, from the Jordan River. So now you have to show me about approximately 30 kilometers east of the city of Jerusalem. You have to show me the Jordan River and the Salt Sea actually meeting each other. And that's according to the book of Joshua.
Yeah, so he's saying that on this map, it says where the Jerusalem is, where the arrow is there.
Okay.
That's next, basically next where we know it as Namibia. And it's we got Beersheba here. That's where the people are saying.
Okay, well, that's backwards. You got Beersheba is actually not north, because now you're putting Beersheba in the tribe of Ephraim and Manasseh.
Right. They say that this map is from 1886.
Okay. Another thing too, I don't want to cut you off, but you have just because you might have a place named Jerusalem doesn't mean that's the actual Jerusalem. Like a lot of these places, a lot of these places mimic the, the book. This is the most, like I said, the most read book throughout the earth, and you have a lot of these places that surnamed or renamed places after biblical names. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I didn't go by that. Like I said, I would just say, you know what? I hear a lot of talk, since I'm in the land, I'm going to do some traveling and I'm going to let the bodies of water determine where these places are. Yeah. So I used the Salt Sea and I drove all the way up. It's called Route 90. That takes you all the way up the coast, all the way up until you meet the Jordan River. Actually, when we got there, we got to the Jordan, we got up to where the Dead Sea, the Salt Sea stopped. And we started going east and we actually crossed the border of Jordan. The Israeli police came out there and met us like, what are y'all doing? You know what I'm saying? And we had to tell them, we showed them our passports or whatever. Like, we just trying to find out where the Jordan River meets. We were just explaining to them that we just traveling, trying to substantiate some things. They let us go without a problem. But, like I said, I just used the bodies of water and, to determine where the land was. So, like I said, the burden of proof is on the people who saying that it's not the land. And now you have to show proof that, the Jerusalem actually sits directly east from where the Jordan River and the Dead Sea or the Salt Sea meet.
Right.
Yeah, I was just showing you the maps, what people are putting out there.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about, I'm just talking, like I said, I just had this discussion a couple of days ago with a brother. As soon as I asked him to prove that, he started coming up with some nonsense. Now he started playing word games. He's saying there's no such thing as called the Dead Sea. I said, okay, well, show me the Salt Sea then. If you don't want to call it the Dead Sea, show me the Salt Sea. So he was trying to maneuver and play word games. But, like I said, this is for the, the viewing audience. You get what I'm saying? These are the type of things you have to look for, and it's best to travel. Like I haven't really seen a lot of people that's claiming these areas travel to these places where they're saying it's at. It's best to travel and get get boots on the ground, work, so you can actually be able to substantiate that. You know what I mean? It's you can say anything, you know what I mean, when you haven't actually traveled, and I'm not saying that, like I travel, I'm just letting you know it's better to have field work so you can be able to substantiate, especially if we want to say that these places in, the land of Israel is in other places, so it's just better to travel.
No, you're absolutely right. A person can say what they want. Now, it's been a long time since I've been to the land. I've only been there once, and I was only there for 2 weeks. But I traveled while I was there. I went to aroound, Mitzpah, because as I told you, I was with the Demona, the folks in Demona, and we did some travel with brother Amadiel and his wife. Took me and my wife at the time to all these different places. And there's nothing like being able to have, like you said, boots on the ground and seeing these places, because you just can't tell us anything, you just can't send it to us. Because just like you said, Brother Dawid, I think you did an excellent job, because what you're saying is correct. You opened the book, you found the marking points in the book, then you identified them where you were, and you saw that it all lined up. Now, the burden of proof would be on someone saying, oh, that's not the place. Well, you show me, you do the same thing, mark it out where you are, and be able to identify these places, and that's called evidence. Now, if you want to ignore the evidence, well, that's your right, you can do it, but we have here evidence. And evidence, if you have evidence against somebody, especially if you want to convict them and you have evidence, that's going to be enough to convict. The jury will convict on that evidence. Or if you have evidence proving that you're innocent of something that you didn't do, and you have evidence, well, you have to substantiate that evidence, bring it forth, lay it out, let everybody see it, and then you can make a determination. So we're just trying to do this thing fairly and rationally. If you believe the book, then you believe the book. If you don't believe the book, then fine, that's fine. But don't come at me telling me where Jerusalem is, but I don't believe the book. Well, then how do you know there's a Jerusalem if you don't believe the book? The book speaks of a Jerusalem. So, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory when you've been there, when you have been there. So, Brother Dawid, I'm glad, I'm happy that you were on today. to substantiate and to make your argument, because that's exactly right. The burden of proof would be on someone who's saying that the land is in Utah. Or they say, well, we have a salt sea. Okay, we have a salt sea. Where does it lead up to?
Right.
And besides that, where was the Babylonians, what we call Iraqis today? Where were they? Because the ones, you got to show me that these people are neighboring people.
Yeah,
but you read the book that Israel had a lot of interaction with these people, Egyptians, Babylonians, Assyrians, so you got to come with the evidence.
Yeah, indeed. Another thing that was mentioned too, you brought up Deuteronomy, and I was just reading this the other day when the Most High, he talks about Egypt. It says, he told our people, he said, the land that you're going, it's not a flat land like Egypt. It's a place that's full of mountains, valleys, and hills. And when you've been to Jerusalem, that whole city is built on mountains.
That's
the
right.
Whole city.
There's a lot of up and down in that area.
A lot of up and downs everywhere you go. It's amazing. So yeah, like I said, like you said it good, right, Elder. Like the burden of proof would be on them. They would have to show and prove with hardcore evidence that that's not the land, and they have to substantiate. Yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off, brother. I'm
No,
sorry.
you good.
But in Deuteronomy, in chapter 2, let me find that for you. In Deuteronomy chapter 2, and you can say verse 5, where Yah tells the people, hey, now look, you're gonna cross over into your brother Esau's land, but that ain't your land. Now you got to identify, okay, if this is then where was Esau's land? Where were the Edomites located? You see, there's a lot of, you just can't claim it, just like you said, Brother Dawid, just because it has the name Jerusalem. You can't say, oh, well, this is it, that one's phony. No, man, you got a lot of homework to do. You'd have to show us where was he in verse 5, Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 5, meddle not with them. No, he said, let's start in verse 4. And command thou the people, saying, you are to pass through the coast of your brethren, the children of Esau, which dwell in Seir. You got to find out where Mount Seir is, you see? And they shall be afraid of you. Take ye good heed to yourselves, therefore. Meddle not with them, for I will not give you of their land, no, not so much as a footbreadth, because I have given Mount Seir unto Esau for a possession. Okay, now Utah, okay, all right, cool. Where was Mount Seir?
Right.
Show me what Mount,
That's a great point. Oh, then also, I don't want to be long-winded. I want to give other people a chance to speak, but this is an interesting topic because, like I said, now you have to rearrange the whole map. One of the most famous rivers on the eastern side of the Jordan was the river of Arnon. Now you have to find that. Now, like I said, if you're saying that's the Jordan River in Utah or something like that, now you have to find the river of Arnon, which dwelt in the land of Ammon. You had Ammon and Moab. So
right.
now you have to find out. Like I said, it's just too much to rearrange. And we was the ones that forgot, who we were and our heritage. The other nations didn't forget. They always knew where Jerusalem was. You know what I'm saying? So we were the ones that forgot. So yeah, that was a good point about Mount Seir, and now you have to rearrange all that. So I just don't, whatever, it just doesn't fit, and the land of Esau was always going to be south. That tells you that in the book of Joshua. About the of Yehuda, Esau's land was south of that. So now when you look at South Africa, I'm pointing that out because that's the last discussion that I had. Where's Esau that's south of that? You can't get no more south of South Africa, then you go into the ocean. You get what I'm saying? So, I just but yeah.
I do feel, I want to say the 4 rivers that were mentioned coming out of the Garden of Eden. I'm thinking the location of those 4 rivers may be of assistance to verify that as well. I think they would have to actually show us those 4 rivers are currently on the map here in the US that actually kind of links up with what's actually listed in the book. What do you guys think of that?
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. And that's why I've heard the arguments where people were saying, as a matter of fact, I got into wasn't heated. I don't use that description, but it was with a brother on YouTube, and he was saying that, or maybe it was on Facebook, but I know it was on one of the social media sites, and he was saying that this America is the land, that region of Utah, which you're saying, Brother Malachi, is the region of the land and what have you. And I remember asking them simple questions. Then where was, show me, who were the Babylonians that we were dealing with? Who were the Edomites that we were dealing with? When I started asking questions like that, the guy shut up. He didn't ever come back. So I think what you find with a lot of people, they're just regurgitating what they've heard without substantiating. They make an argument. For example, one of the arguments for America being the land was the tall trees. It talks about the trees of Lebanon. They're saying, well, really, they were talking about the redwood trees that you see in California. Because what trees are mightier than those? Those trees grow to humongous, man. In the area of Lebanon, those trees aren't so remarkable, So he was saying, he was just trying to substantiate it by saying, who has more bears than the United States? They're talking about the animals that's spoken of in the scriptures, saying this and that and all this. But when I asked him certain landmarks in regions, show me this, show me where this is, the guy he just, oh, well, you just don't believe, he made a little smart remark and just left, and I never heard from the guy again. So really, I think, like you say, Brother Malachi, if you point these things out, what has to happen is they have to think on the fly, and try to come up with arguments. Like Dawid said, he posed some questions to the brother, and he just was trying to, make things, pulling stuff out the top of his head. But you can see that they have no basis for their argument when you present them with the identifying way markers that the scriptures point out, because it's too much information for them. They can't think that quickly. That's the thing about the truth. When you speak the truth, it just rings with you. That a lie, you find a person that's lying, or maybe even just, I don't say he's lying, that he believes that he's telling you a lie. He may be really believing in his heart. But if it's not the truth, you find those people, well. See, when you start doing that, something's wrong. When you got, well, what about this? Or what about that? Something's wrong. You know what I mean? So I believe the land is exactly where most people see it. It's right there in the land of Palestine, which we call Israel. That is the land. Now, how much of it is really the territory that was given us? Who knows? But I know this. Africa is not it. America is not it, especially America. This wicked place, oh man. If this wicked place isn't marked for destruction, I don't know what place is. I mean, like I said, it was a European woman who said it, but she said this back in the 80s, and I never forgot it. She said, if the Most High doesn't, well, she said God, if God doesn't destroy this place, America, for his sins, he's gonna owe Sodom and Gomorrah an apology. I mean, that rang true with me. I think she's right, because this land is wicked.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
This land? Come on.
No, the things what's going on now, we get all these transgenders and all these other, I got no idea how many genders were going on. So this world, how it's developing now, it cannot go on how it's going on. It's impossible. So there's going to be an ending and then a new beginning. They have to be.
Yes.
And the new beginning, when the Israelites get back in their place and they put out the law to all the nations.
Can you imagine the people that we speak with every day, that we encounter or that we hear of, whether we see it on a news article or news clipping? Can you imagine them trying to comply with the laws that Yah gave us? They got people who are obsessed with homosexuality, pedophilia, murder, all these abominations. They're upset. They're not going to change their mind. Yah's going to have to make an example out of some people. And the book speaks of that. There are just some people that are destined for destruction. They are. I mean, it's sad to say that, but the reality is there are some people that are destined for destruction. And it's got to be that way, bro, because I just, in this country with the wickedness that goes on every day, you hear me? Some kind of depravity is going on. You know, I was telling my wife that just today. We went shopping. You know, I don't want to share it with you guys because I know the internet and tell who could see this. But just trust me when I tell you, the level of depravity in America is beyond repair. It's going to have to pay. This place is going to have to pay. And I live here. I have relatives here. But guess what? It is what it is. You know. It is what it is, man.
You know, go ahead, brother.
Go ahead, brother.
Forgive me, guys. I'm a bit tired. I've been up since 4 something this morning.
Yeah, I can see it.
And I'm fresh off of work. But, you know, it's important if we were scattered to the 4 corners of the earth, and we will have to be brought back into the land. Now, Brother Benai and I, we can get in our cars and drive to Utah. No one needs to bring us into Utah. You know what I mean? So that's another thing. I mean, if we were scattered to where we have to be brought back now, being the 2 leadership houses, the houses of Levi, and the house of David or the house of Judah, being those leadership tribes being scattered, we know certainly that Simeon and Levi is within all the tribes because the Most High distributed those brothers in the midst of all of Israel. So you can find Levites everywhere. Wherever Israel are, you're going to have some Levites among them somewhere because Levi was scattered in the midst of them. I don't feel the same way for the tribe of Judah because I do feel as though this word, this law, before it comes forth from Zion, which is after we return back from the land, is going to take, I feel, aspects of the house of Yehuda, as well as aspects of the house of Levi, that's going to actually stand up and starting to teach this word. Now, what's important, I think, here in the West, in America, particularly here, this is like headquarters for all the nations. So we would have the biggest bullhorns being in the midst of our enemies at their headquarters nation. Mm-hmm. It would be tough hearing this coming out of Haiti. It'd be tough hearing this law coming out of any place else because, believe it or not, when you start speaking of the house Negro, field Negro dynamic, if you're living in the Western countries, especially here in America, this is as house Negro as you can get. And what I mean by that is you're much more educated. We're much more educated here than anyone else. We have more money than anyone else. As far as the rest of the diaspora, we're much better off because we're living here at headquarters. We're in the house. And so therefore, we have the apparatus and the mouthpiece by which to really espouse the Most High's word and be heard by the rest of the nations where the house of Israel is located. And it will be much tougher for this word to get the reach if it was coming from any other of the smaller nations where you would not have that platform by which to get it out. You kind of see what I'm saying? That's just my view. So therefore, it can't be here because then we wouldn't have to go anywhere. Like I said, we could drive to Utah from here or catch a short flight. There's no contention for that place. I don't believe for any reason at all, not for 1 second, that Utah is actually the Holy Land. That's my opinion.
And to piggyback on what you're saying, my brother, look, there's no, like you said, there's no contention. See, there's contention in the land of Israel. You got the Palestinian conflict, you have the Israeli conflict, and then I would venture to say, I'll tell you something that I once experienced while I was in the land. My wife at the time was with me. We saw Imadiel of the Demona group, and we had gone. We were in a desert area. We were on our way. We were passing around Jericho, and we stopped by this brother's house. He was a Muslim brother. He looked like he probably was a Bedouin, but he had a house, you know. And when we were at his house, we were standing outside in his little courtyard area, and we were talking. And I saw across the street from him some little black children, you know, what we would term, you know, black children. They came out, and I remember asking them. I said, "Say, man, who?" You know, I was waving at them. They waved back at me and stuff. And I said, "Say, man, who are they?" And he looked at me and said, "What do you mean, who are they?" I said, who are they? You know, I was expecting to hear something like, well, a story like, oh, well, you know, the Africans came here back in, say, the 1700s and they set up shop. No, you know, he told me, he said, those are Palestinians. Those are the people that this land belongs to. And I remember saying, oh, well then, because, you know, he answered the question, it made me feel kind of stupid for even asking the question. But then I said, well, wait a minute. If they're Palestinians, who are those? And I just said it straight up. I'm gonna be straight up with you. I said, who are those other people in the land that call themselves Palestinian, those white-looking people? And he and Madiel answered me, said, those are the descendants of the invaders, of the Crusaders. That's whose children they are. And I'm telling you, bro, the light just boom. You know, it's like enlightenment when you first found out you were Israel and you knew it was the truth. You could see it. You know what you read. That's the kind of enlightenment that hit me when he said that. Those folks in the land, this might not be a popular video with a lot of people, but I'm gonna tell you what I heard and what I've seen. They told me that those children were the Palestinians, and that those other people that you see on TV, the Palestinians that look Muslim, you know, they had the straight hair, the light skin, descendants of the people who came in through the Crusades. And trust me, there were like 9 Crusades over a period of centuries. And these people stayed in this region. Some of these, and they had children in these regions. And they are some of the children. I have a book here. I don't know if y'all be able to see the picture, but I have a book here, and I'm gonna hold it up to the screen so y'all can see it. But I have a book here, and in this book, they have a picture of some little children, and I want y'all to tell me if y'all can see these pictures, if these look like the Palestinians you're used to seeing on the TV.
Yeah, we can see him. Hold it still, yep.
This is what I saw when I asked, who are those children? And he told me, and underneath, you probably can't see it, it says, children of Jericho. That's what it says, children of Jericho. This is a picture of Bedouins in the land. It's a brother and his father, and they were Bedouins.
Yeah.
In that region. But this is what the people, when you go to Israel, and Dawid, I know you saw it, you had to have seen it. You had to have seen it. There are people that look like that. Do you see them on TV when they're showing the Palestinians?
No. But
they tell you themselves, we've been in this land.
How many, is there a lot of them?
Yeah, there's a place, about 25 miles outside of Beersheba called Segev Shalom. And that whole little, it's a small town, but that whole town is full of what they call Afro-Palestinians. And what the brother's saying is correct. I did some research on this. The Afro-Palestinians are the true descendants of the children of Israel. And it's a video, as you said, it's not too popular because they don't want a lot of people to know this because they're going to put on film. But the elder, he was explaining, it's another, if you look him up, his name is Ali Jedediah.
You met Ali? You met him?
I haven't met him personally, but I know people who have, but I know about him.
I met him. I was in his house. He wasn't feeling good. I don't need to cut you off. He wasn't feeling that good when we came by. We went and visited him, and he wasn't feeling that good. And I never forget, he smokes. And saw Ahmadi El and said, man, you're not feeling good. You smoking? And I remember he told Ahmadi El, man, leave me alone. I'm in my house. Let me smoke. Let me do this. He told us. Now, this is something he told us. He said that we are the Palestinians. He said, even the Palestinians who you see on TV, these invaders, that descendants of invaders, they will refer to us as Kushi.
Kushi is another word for nigga.
That's another word for nigga. That's right. That they will refer to them as Kushi. So I'm gonna tell you something. This is my thought, just based on what I've seen and what I've experienced. See, because y'all provided me a witness today. Brother Dawid is a solid witness on these facts that I'm telling you. He told me that these Palestinians treated them bad first. Then when the Israelis came in, they started treating them bad. So I think they're getting catchback for the way they treated us in that land. But you don't see us represented in that land. When they're sitting at the table, the Palestinians and the Israelis are trying to discuss peace negotiation, you don't see people that look like us. And they look like Israelites. They don't look like fun. Like you could see an African, you could kind of tell, okay, he's from Africa. Or you see a Somalian, oh, he's from Somalia. He's from Ethiopia. You can kind of see it. But these people look like people you would expect to see in a suburb in the urban areas in Philadelphia or Chicago. That's what they look. They look like they could be your relatives.
That's right. Even Ali looked just like an Israelite when you look at him.
Yeah, he's an Israelite. You could see it. I don't know if he understands that. He should understand that. People in Dimona, but I'm telling you, bro, they look like your relatives. Any relative that you would have, they look like oh, this is your uncle. Oh, that's your little cousin right there. You say, where that cuz? Looks just like them. That's our people, but that's not very popular. And I'll be honest with you, people who watch this video is probably gonna cut what we're saying. But I don't care, man, because it's the truth, man. Some of the Palestinians are indeed Israelites, but not all Palestinians. Not all.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
To echo that point, Brother Benaiah. Now, if you look at the many lands of the earth, even with the Philippines and the Negritos, and all the other native pockets of the earth, you will see where there's a big stir up and the dust up for what has taken place in Australia and the injustices that they're experiencing right now. So us being pushed to the back burner in many of these nations, even right now, you would have those who are in Egypt who are as dark as you and I and have Africoid type features. Even they are not shown to be the true Egyptians. And they say we are the Egyptians. So, when you look at Yemen right now, Saudi's been bombing the heck out of Yemen for the last few years, right? Now, what they don't show you is the Yemenis or the Yemenites or whatever you may want to call them that looks exactly like us. That's going through a whole lot of mess. I looked at some photos of some of the people in Yemen, and there were some still photos as well as some of them speaking of the hardships with the actual military conflict. They look exactly like us. But you have to dig for those clips. They're not readily available for you. So it appears clearly that wherever we may have gone to occupy those land masses, as we try to flee the Holy Land and go to these other places, our enemies did indeed pursue us, and they did overtake us. So that seems to hold true no matter where we have gone to and where we are.
And I want to say something about, you made a good point, because I'm actually, where I'm at, it's not technically Egypt. It's just called the wilderness of the Red Sea. I'm about an hour, 45 minutes away from Eilat, which is the Israel border. And when you talk about the original Egyptians, it's a place called Aswan. And this place is what they call, Egypt is flipped upside down. Upper Egypt is actually the southern part of Egypt, and Lower Egypt is actually the northern part of Egypt. They do that because the further south you go in Egypt, the more elevated it gets. Now you start to rise up on the mountains. But it's a place called Aswan. And what the Arab Egyptians try to do is they try to push all the original dark-complected Egyptians southern towards Sudan. And that's where you'll find the original Egyptians. They actually look Sudanese. But even in Aswan, you have people that look just like us. You get what I'm saying? So, Brother Lee, that was a great point you made there, is, when you think of Egypt, they don't show you the people in Aswan. You get what I'm saying? Because that community is about 80 to 90% dark-complected people, but you'll never hear about it. And even in the North Sinai, you have the original Bedouins who were actually dark-complected, so it's buried there. And also what Elder Lee said, I want to just chime in one more thing that he said about the Palestinians. There's a video that's not very popular. It was an elder was explaining, he was an Afro-Palestinian, and he was explaining how when the Arab, because, he was retracing his, generation to generation. And he was explaining how the Arabs, Palestinians, who are the remnant of the Ottoman Empire, they're the remnants. Of course, Elder Benaiah said you had many crusades like the Caliph that came in when they conquered Jerusalem. You had the remnant from that. You had the remnant from the Ottoman Empire. And he said that they were the ones that was actually oppressing the Afro-Palestinians. You know what I'm saying? And he was describing some of the oppressions that they were going through these Arab Palestinians. And it was, it was unbearable to listen to. You get what I mean? So, I was also able to bear witness on that. And like I said, if you get a chance, look up the town called Shegev Shalom. And that's in Israel. That's down there in the Negev desert, not too far away from Beersheba. And that community is basically all Afro-Palestinians. So yeah.
Shegev Shalom.
Yeah, Shegev Shalom. SEGEV Shalom, like SHAL. I think I might Shalom or Shalom. Yeah, Shegev Shalom.
Okay, I'm gonna look that up.
Yes, and also look at Aswan too, because that's I met a few brothers that was from Aswan here out in the Red Sea, and they look just like us. They act like us and everything. I mean, you can kind of feel a spirit. It's a spirit on the children of Israel. You know what I mean? It's like you can know like we have a certain connection. And them brothers, they definitely had a certain connection. They was from a lot of the dark-complected people, the southern part of the mainland Egypt.
Yep, I can believe it, brother. And see that this is what I'm saying. The deception is out here is real. They will do anything to keep us from rising because our rise, they know it. Our rise is their fall. They know it. And so whatever they do, they got to keep us down. That is important to our enemies. I mean, and to be honest with you, speaking from an enemy perspective, I can understand that. I wouldn't want to see the true people rise either, because that means they got to shut the lights out because the party's over. They want the party to continue. They're on top right now, and they will do anything they can to stay on top. And if keeping us down means them being on the top, they're going to try to keep us down forever. So they're not going to change their behavior. They're going to do what they can. They'll listen to this video. Oh, these guys don't know what they talk about. These because this, they'll make up stuff. And this, and what about this? What about this? What about this? But all that, forget all that whataboutism, you know. You got to look what the book says, and you have to do what Yah says in this book. That way you'll be enlightened to see the truth of all of this. So that's perfect, brother Dawid. You know, you echoing you know, the points that I'm making and then adding to it with your point, stuff that I didn't know. The Segez Shalom. I'm sure we're gonna look into that. But I knew.
And if you still in touch with any of the brothers in the land, ask them about Segez Shalom. They'll tell you. They'll be able to confirm my word. It's a lot of Afro-Palestine, Afro-dark. You know, they're still confused. You know, they think that they're, you know, into Islam and things like that. Right. But it's just the burden of the proof is that, you know, these were the people, the original people that were there before it was conquered. You know what I'm saying? And they, you know, they kind of live off the grid and things like that. So yeah, just substantiate what you were saying about the Afro-Palestinians. I can second that.
Right. So there's a lot to it.
They got any information of the tribe, what they came from? Any like old clothing or any information at all?
As far as tribe, that's, you know, that's kind of difficult. You know, we scattered.
No, but I
so
mean,
as far as
the tribe, what's in Israel at the moment?
The tribe?
Yeah, the people what look like us.
Yeah, well, I don't think they could identify with a tribe. And see, and basically, Henry, that was kind of my question to the brother when I was at his house. You know, well, who are these people? You know, because they obviously look, you know, they were black, you know, and I was wondering, hey, you know, tell me a story. Where these people come from? And he just looked at me perplexed, like, what do you mean? Where they come from? This is their land. You know, I mean, I knew it, but to hear it put so matter of fact, like, don't you know that these other people are the descendants of invaders? And I mean, of course, I knew it when he said it clicked, you know, but at the time when I asked it, it was an innocent question. You know, who are these people? Because the only people I was seeing that were like us were the people in Dimona, you know, and a few other people I think that migrated to the region that were obviously Africans who immigrated, maybe people from Ethiopia, you know, so you could probably make that, oh, well, they came from Ethiopia. No, but these were people that they couldn't give us a background as far as, oh, well, back in 1673, the you know, Tutsis moved up here from Africa and that's their descendants. No, it was, hey, these people, this is their land. They belong here. You know, right. And then when I asked, well, who are those other people? When they told me that they're invaders, man, I'm telling you, bro, it's like the light clicked on and that light never went off either. I'll never forget that experience, you know. And my ex, she's very familiar with that experience too. You know, she remembers that, you know, like it was yesterday. So it's something, David. I mean, Henry, I don't know if that really answers your question, but with these people that we're talking about, you can't really associate them with a tribe because they've been there. They have been there. They'll look at you like, what are you talking about? You know, they'll look as perplexed as you because there's no connection to them in the continent of Africa. They can't tell you a story.
When I was talking about the tribe, I meant like the 12 tribes. But if the Israelites,
well, they lost. Well, like I said, these young kids, they believe that they're Muslim because they adopted Islam. You know,
they adopted Islam. But like you said, brother, like they feel that they know that they are truly indigenous to that land.
Right.
You know, so when you say, you know, just you kind of, you know, going back what you said, you know, that's correct. They feel that they're indigenous. Now, as far as the tribes, this is my personal, you know what I mean, according to the way I was looking at the book and observing. These could possibly be the remnants that returned back out of Assyria, you know, when they came back into the land and they stayed there. You know what I mean? So you dating all the way back. Now they don't know that because they can't connect this. They can't connect them to the indigenous, the children of Israel. So that's why they just feel that they're indigenous without being able to give you a background. Hey, we came back this and that. They just know that they're indigenous and they've been conquered by invaders over a period of time, and they adopted the customs of the invaders who they were conquered by.
Right.
So, yeah,
exactly. Well,
to me, that makes the children of Israel, the fact that they can't really connect and see, they don't really know who they are. Just like a lot of us didn't know who we are before we was awakened, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. They can't really give you that. They'll just associate themselves with, they'll say they're indigenous, and then as far as their religious aspect, they'll just associate themselves with with Islam, because those are the people they were conquered by when the Caliphate invaded. So,
right.
I'm gonna say you get some tribes in Africa claiming that they are the Israelites.
Yeah.
What? And then they're wearing all the Jewish symbolism and all this.
Yeah,
That's the Lemba.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't know, because I don't know. I never spoken to a Lemba, someone who's a member of the Lemba tribe. I never spoken with them. I know that they feel that they're Israel, and who knows. But if they claim, and I'm not sure what their claims are, but if they claim, oh, we know that because it was passed down to our ancestors, I don't know. See, because our memory was taken from us. That memory was taken from us. So I don't know at what point they started regarding themselves as Israel. I really don't know. I'll be honest with you. And that's something I need to look up and find out about. But I know that they make those claims. But then what they follow is Judaism, really.
Yeah, I know.
And see that kind of, you following, I mean, I don't know. That just seems funny to me that they know they're Israel, and they know that they descend from the tribe of Israel, and they, and yes, they follow.
It's like the tribe of Israel, the Israelites. We never use the name of Jewish.
Yeah.
Jewish is the new terminology.
Yeah.
Right.
But then people believe, oh, they're calling the Israelites Jews. No, we never use the word Jew. That's what Ashkenazi Jews.
I've heard certain Europeans on social media make the comment, that we need to be ashamed of ourselves trying to usurp the Jews' history. I mean, we're trying to usurp their history? You got to be kidding me. I mean, if anything, those people are pretending to be us. We're not pretending to be them. So there's also, I'm telling you, you have to kind of be careful of what you hear out in these streets and on the social media and things. You have to kind of, take it with a grain of salt. You have to critique it. You have to, and the way to do that is if you're well rooted in the book. You have to be well rooted in this book, because if you're not, you could be swept away by anything. Any talking point that'll sound good, you get swept away by it. But if you know the book, if you read it, make it a daily practice to study it and root yourself and ground yourself in it, person can't just come to you and say anything. They got to substantiate. They got to verify what they're saying. They have to back it up.
And just like we were talking about, go ahead, Elder.
I'll tell you what. Now we know good and well the Most High said He was going to wake up the children of Israel. If we are of the understanding that we are the children of Israel, and we can see clearly, based on bearing witness to the fact that when we're awakened, we will be able to go into these scrolls, and the Most High said, will be for these signs. These curses will be for signs and wonders, and a sign points to something and identifies something, or lets you know exactly what direction to go. These are what signs will do. So if we understand clearly the Most High, when He reveals His secrets to His prophets, we understand the prophets of the Most High are His own people. If we are of the belief that we are the Most High's people, we can identify clearly and substantiate that these curses have befallen us. We have been scattered, and all that has been prophesied actually has happened to us. Then it's only fitting that those of us who would stand up and speak this word in truth and in righteousness will be of the house of Israel. And the men that will point us back onto the law will be of the house of Israel. Because the Most High did say he would raise up men in whose heart is his law, or men after his own heart. And that's going to be of the house of Israel. So therefore, when we see strangers, a lot of the men that I have seen that's teaching this, one second, a lot of the men that I have seen that's teaching that Jerusalem is in Utah and all these other things, they're not men that look like us, the ones that I have seen. So that's, that's concerning by itself. But as for those of the peoples that do look like us, that may have aspects of Torah, if not have the whole Torah, and follow aspects of it along with Judaism, we must remember, if we're looking back in that time frame, and most of those nations are quote unquote African looking people or people with black people's phenotypes. Remember, there was a point where the Levites actually had to teach those of us, not those of us, had to teach the people that were brought into the land to replace us, had to teach them the laws and the ways of our strong one. So it is my understanding that there would be many African looking people or black people, quote unquote, that may not be of the house of Israel, but are actually members of those ancient nations that were brought into the Holy Land, and they had to be taught the law, statutes, judgments, and precepts, etc., that they may at least be able to sustain themselves in the land. And this is written in the book as well. So maybe these are remnants of some of these nations who were taught our ways and our customs and may have still held on to them.
That's a good point.
That is a good point. I'll be honest with you, that's a very good point that I admit I haven't considered. But now that you bring that out, as far as I'm concerned, that's a fact that would have to be disproven now. I'm serious, because that is an aspect you have to look at that, because a lot of people do understand the teachings. Let's face it, the law was given, and a lot of nations are familiar with the law to some degree, some more than others, because the Most High Yah would not destroy or punish you for something you do not know. You know what I mean? You have to be familiar with the do's and the don'ts before you can be punished for doing the wrong thing.
But Brother Benai, not to interrupt you now, the Most High will stick it to you for doing something that you don't know. This is why we have that we can actually offer a sacrifice or offer up an offering for ignorance.
Right. And you're right. But I'm saying to truly punish you and to put a whipping. For example, if a person kills somebody, he may not even heard of Torah before, but he knows if he just kills somebody, he's going to try to get away with it. He's not going to, in other words, he'll try to hide the body, or he'll make up an excuse for, well, I wasn't even in that region doing that happened when that person died, because he knows in his heart that he did something wrong. That's what I mean. That there is a semblance that of right and wrong that seems inherent. Most people think, oh, well, I don't need some book to tell me that killing is wrong. You mean to tell me you need a book to tell you killing is wrong? You act like that's inherent in you, but really you got that because that's part of your DNA. It's passed down to you. You know right and wrong. That's why even a child, you might not tell them everything that's right and wrong, but they know when they've done something wrong, because they'll try to act innocent. All of a sudden, they'll if you got children, you know what that is. They'll act innocent or try to hide it or something. I have a son who's autistic. And when he was very young, he would get these, he used to like to watch videos, videotapes and stuff. He learned how to put in the tape and all this. And he would go get videos and attempt to put them under his shirt, and he would try to sneak by you. Now, he knew that he wasn't supposed to do that. How did he know that? Well, we had told him before, hey, no, don't take these tapes. So he would try to sneak the tapes. Well, that seems inherent. But just like a video you once did, Brother Malachi, the DNA, it's passed through your DNA, and there are things that people do that are wrong, and they know it's wrong, even though you may say, well, nobody formally taught them that that's wrong or that's right. People they just know it,
I agree, but I listened to the new brother, runaway slave, and he made a point that I really never really thought of. Though I know I stand set apart from what a lot of people will do. Certain things I'm just not going to do. Even before I knew the law, there was just some things I'm just not going to do. But he made this point. He said, "Don't ever think that because you won't do this, that there aren't other people that will do it." So I do understand your point, Brother Benai, as far as okay, we know you would think. We know that killing is inherently just wrong, right? Could it be that we were just taught that and we understood that? Because clearly we can see day by day, the evidence is before us that there are people that don't look like us, that there are no compunctions in them killing us, whether it's our elderly, it's our women, or our young, and there's no consideration for righteousness, empathy, or any of that. And I'm thinking because we are not built that way, we are puzzled by their lack of empathy, lack of righteousness, lack of caring, all of these things, to kill our children and things like that. I think some of us are just, not only are we heartbroken by what we see, we're baffled because we do not understand why these things are being done to us, because we can't really conceive of ourselves or see ourselves doing this to anyone else.
Maybe it's because we're different makeup. Because we got made from the dirt, so the way we got made up is different. Because the Europeans is mixed with Neanderthal gene and the Asians.
Right.
So they got that part of gene what's in them.
There are some, and it goes back to my earlier point. It says that the wicked are estranged from the womb. From the womb. So to me, that suggests what we now have the term for. We will say, oh, it's in your genes. It's your genetics. It's your DNA. David said that they're estranged from the womb. And it's, I believe it, man. There are just some people that Yah had to make a distinction. Okay, there's going to be righteous, there's going to be wicked, because I'm going to have to make an example of the wicked so that the righteous will see that their righteousness was not in vain. I can't tolerate, Yah, from Yah's perspective, Yah is saying, and we know from reading the book, Yah can't tolerate wickedness. People who just have to do wickedly. There are some people that can't get good sleep unless they've done wickedly. I mean, you're right, Dave, Malachi. I can't conceive of that. That's foreign to me. Why would you think to do that? Because these people are wicked. And as far as our enemies, they don't really view us as being human, so goodness knows what's in there. They think they're doing something righteous by exterminating us. They think that we're the wicked, hence our black skin, and we were cursed black, although you can't find it anywhere in scriptures. I don't know where they get that from, because the only curses I see that deals with complexions turns the skin what color, y'all?
White.
Yeah, there you go. White. That's the only thing I've seen in the scriptures where someone has a curse, had to be cured for a skin disorder. Their skin was white. So, I mean, just go and figure. You do the figuring. You read the scriptures and just let what comes natural take over your mind, and you see the light. It's the light of Yah, and when you see it, you can't ever forget it. You won't forget it.
It's like what Dave says. They are foreign to this land because we were 100% human the way we got made. But they because of the curse what lies upon them and their mixture with the Neanderthal gene and everything like that. The Arabs, the Asians, the Europeans, so it's their mindset is different.
Think about it. I it sounds like we're beating up on people, but I'm just being honest. Let's cut the foolishness. Let's be real. If the sun burns your skin to where your skin will start peeling and you getting bars in your skin from the sunlight, something's wrong. Why does the sun burn? You're the only creature on this earth that hides from the sun. The sun is a source of, Yah is a source of life, but the sun is a source of energy and strength. Plants, animals, everything feed off sunlight. Now they got some animals that, never see too much of the sun, it's in the deep oceans and whatnot. But for the most part, the sun is a bringer of life and health to most. But you gotta, what is that you got to protect yourself from sunlight? Something's wrong. I mean, something's wrong. And it just so happens those people are really mean and heartless to our people. Why? What's wrong with being in harmony and working together? No, they refuse to work with us.
And one I witnessed in the land too, those people who call themselves Jews, Israelis. I'm talking about the what they call ultra orthodox. They walk around in they call them black suits. They walk around. And I realized that I was told that they wear those long sleeves and things, like they wear that every day to actually protect their skin. Because they don't belong in that region. That region's too hot for them, and they can't survive in that region on a daily basis like that. So they have to protect themselves by wearing that type of clothing.
Yeah, go ahead, brother.
I want to say that I did read an article several years back that those who do live in the land of the European persuasion that are there, because as we know, that those who call themselves Jews are from the different areas of the Caucasus Mountains, coming out from the different eastern bloc of Russia or eastern bloc of Europe, Belarus and Hungary and places like that. But I did read an article several years back where in that region they suffer from the highest rates of skin cancer. I mean, they're the highest rates of skin cancer in the world.
In fact, it was a few years ago where I saw an article where it says that the Israelis suffer, or they're second on the list for suffering from sunburn and things like that. I mean, and yet you want us to believe that you originated in that region? You can't even live there. You know what I mean? You can't even live there naturally. Imagine these people being in Egypt in the hot sun talking about we were slaves in Egypt. Bro, y'all show y'all about leave y'all out there in a week. You have to pull y'all in. Y'all getting suffering from sunburn. I mean, if it doesn't make sense, I'm gonna say something I heard Judge Judy say. If it doesn't make sense, that's because it's not true. If it doesn't make sense, it's because it's not true. That's why these people, then they make the argument, well, they used olive oil on their skin to protect them. Well, why don't you use olive oil now? There's still olive oil. Come on, man. You can't. That's the thing about lying. When the truth comes out, liars scramble. They just scramble. They run and hide. Not me. I never said that. I never said that. What are you talking about? And now the truth is coming out. The truth is being revealed. And for those who love the truth and who can live in the light of Yah's laws, they're going to flourish during this time. But the wicked are being pushed down to the bottom. And that's what's happening. And I really believe that's why a lot of these wicked men are doing what they're doing. That's why they're being exceptionally cruel and killing people and murdering for no reason. The politicians are scrambling. They don't have no more lies to tell. I mean, it's evident. It's evident to anyone who has eyes to see and ears to hear.
But that's
I do think.
I was just saying what the brother elders just said. That's Yah. Just you can see bringing all the lies, and all the hidden things. Like he said, how Esau hidden things are sought out. Even by their skin color, he's revealing to them that they can't even survive in a land that they claim that they're indigenous to. So, like I said, just uncovering all the lies and deceptions, even going down to the skin color. And how they can't even survive in the places where they claim that they from. How can you be Yisrrael or Israel and you can't even survive in that land? You got the highest rate of skin cancer. And don't you know that the most imported as far as sun products, Israel's the #1 country. They get the most import for sun protection and all that sunscreens. It goes to Israel because they can't stand the heat. The sun burns them up.
Yes, I think, all of what we continue to present before the nations is to teach them in a manner to where it makes sense. Everyone can't read the Bible. Everyone may not have access to it. Some people's reading comprehension may not be as good. Some people may be blind. But as we present this in common everyday English and explain it in a manner that they can understand, then it's easier for many to grasp it. I still think with all that we say and do, I'm thinking for the Most High to make this plain before his people and everyone else. He will do like he did in times past. He will separate his people from everyone else. And he's going to do some things to protect his people while doing harm to others. That way, there's a clear distinction between who is who and what's what. But that has to take place. I think we can talk to them until they're blue in the face. But until something happens that you cannot refute, cannot dispute, you know good and well, what I'm seeing before my face is unprecedented, and this cannot be done by anyone else. There's no man that did this. And this is a clear distinction between these people and these people right here. I think once whatever that event may be, or a series of events may be, that's going to be what changed the hearts and minds of the people. For some, it may be too late. But for some, it may be exactly what it will take for them to decide to change their ways and to really understand exactly who the house of Israel really is.
Indeed.
I agree. You're absolutely right. And we're just going to continue to strive. And it's a fight, it's a battle with good and evil. Even in the midst of most of the people of the earth, the inhabitants of the earth who's dwelling in darkness, they're going in one direction and you're going in another direction. So there's going to be a lot of pushback on what you're doing, on what you're teaching, on how you live. Let them push, let them fight, let them do what they have to do. You keep going the way that Yah instructed you to go. You go and you keep doing it, and you just keep on doing it. It doesn't matter what anybody else does. We won't get knocked off your square. Don't get knocked off your square. Don't let people add you, well, you're not doing it. You're saying that I'm this and I'm that. And I'm telling, let me tell you something. No, you don't have to argue with him. Just keep doing what you do, because Yah is our protection. He's our strength. Now, if we claim that Yah is our strength, and we know that one of the titles that people refer to the Most High is the Almighty, that means you have to be pretty strong. You can't be weak out here espousing, oh, Yah is the Most High is my God, is my protection, and you weak, and you get knocked off your square and easily agitated really quickly. You can't be like that. You have to be strong, and you have to be in his word. You have to know what it says, and you have to know what it says, and you have to do it. You have to do what he tells you to do. And that's how you draw your strength. You constantly stay in the book. You read it and you reread it, and you just keep going over it. There's no such thing as, oh, I read that before, that was a while ago. No, read it every day, because you got to draw strength from it, you know, and you need strength in these times, man, because this ain't the time for weak people. I mean, these heathens are really coming up with all kinds of dastardly deeds to present to the people and to try to make it appealing to them so that you partake of it. You can't partake of this wickedness that's going on out here, man. You know, my wife and I were talking about that earlier today. You can't even eat out, you know, because you don't know what contamination that you're receiving from people. You eat at people's house, or you go to a restaurant here. There's all kind of abominations going on in that kitchen. You know, you say, well, what's a steak? You could eat a steak, yeah. That's the same grill that they just grilled chicken on, or pork. And you eat that same grill, you know, it's contaminated. You know, so you just have to be strong, and you have to keep on going in the right direction, the direction that Yah set us on. And you have to read and study the book that Yah left for us. I always say, every presentation that we have, I try to be consistent with that. Read. Listen, viewing audience, read that book of remembrance, Genesis to Malachi. Read it, study it. Don't worry about what anybody else says. You read it for yourself. Read it every day. That's how you gain strength. You learn from the book. You learn what Yah says. And ask him to be your guide and to forgive you. Because I'm telling you, man, we sinned a great sin to have wicked people running the earth right now. This earth could easily be run by Yah through Israel, but it's not. Why? Because we were hard-headed. We wanted to do what we wanted to do. You can't just do what you want. You have to do what Yah says. It's not about us doing what we want. So that's my message to all the folks out there and listening to the viewing audience. Listen to Yah. Heed the warnings. Look at his judgments upon the earth and ask yourself, do I want to be swept away with the wicked, or do I want to stand strong with the righteous?
That's it.
That's wise counsel.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's like the people know that we're from that land because we got melanin in our bodies. And melanin to the Western world is worth a lot of money. It's worth around 40, the average black person got around $40 million worth of melanin in them. 40 million, you know. It's worth more than gold. That's why our organs is very important for them.
That's why we're being shot and killed. Maybe it's all this organ harvesting time for a lot of people. I mean, these rich Europeans with money, all I need is a new lung. All I need is a new liver. I need a heart. I'm willing to pay millions for it. Oh, millions, you say? Okay. Guess what? That nigga getting shot dead because we can take his liver. I got a liver for you.
I don't know if you're gonna get. You know that. You know the black market for organ harvesting is basically controlled by the so-called Jews, Israelis. They the leaders of that. You know, that came out years ago. So, you know, what a surprise, the people who's claiming to be us are the main ones who's harboring our organs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Now, what scripture says that Israel is going to be harvesting organs? What scripture is that? I've never seen that scripture.
No. They ran them.
Yeah.
They ran them out of Haiti during the time of that earthquake, that major earthquake, because a bunch of the Israelis were down there, and they were running they were harvesting organs down there. So they ran them up out of that. They ran them up out of that spot. So this is something that we've heard before, and these things have been confirmed. Henry, as it pertains to the subject matter, as far as Judah or the Holy Land being in Utah, I don't remember the actual name of the channel here on YouTube that I was looking at with this guy. He kind of looks like an Indian type guy, Indian Hispanic type. He doesn't look like us. So this was the guy that was presenting this information, and he seems to be very much convinced, based on what he's presenting, that that's the case. So for those who are listening to this, what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to try to find out what that channel is. That way you could at least throw a link in there. That way they can go and hear what his side is, because I can't defend that. I'm totally not in agreement with it. But, I try to tell people all the time, I don't care where you get your knowledge from, but hear both sides of the story. So it would behoove the people to go and look and let them determine with their own eyes what they see. You know what I mean?
And yeah, I'm glad we get it. As far as the topic of discussion, before we close it, can I just give y'all 4 verses? I mean, that's all. I want to take up too many times.
Definitely bring it forth.
Yeah, 4 verses to basically dispel, because a lot of people say, they want the land to be desolate. They don't want nobody inhabited, because they can't bear the fact that our curses that was put on us for our disobedience to the Most High, that our enemies were going to take our land for their possession, and they were going to inhabit our land. So that right there dispels that our land is desolate without an inhabitant. Now, I'm in Ezekiel chapter 36, and you can read for time purposes, you can start at the top and read it all the way down, read the whole chapter so you can get in the full content. But I'm going to start at verse 4, and he's prophesying to the mountains of Israel. So he's basically, Yah's prophesying to the land of what will befall the land. Now he says, therefore, ye mountains of Israel, I'm in verse 4 of Ezekiel chapter 36. It says, therefore, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of Yah, thy power. Thus saith Yah, thy power to the mountains and to the hills, to the rivers and to the valleys, to the desolate wastes, like we were talking about before. We got those inhabitants of the Negev desert that's completely wasteland right now. One of the most main attractions in the Negev desert in Mispir Ramon is called the Ramon crater. Look that up. The Ramon crater is one of the biggest craters on Earth. And it's completely desolate without an inhabitant. You can actually build about 2 or 3, 4 cities down there. But he says, into the cities that are forsaken, which came a prey in the region to the residue of the heathen that are around about. Therefore, verse 5, thus saith Yah, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea. So it's telling you that the descendants of Esau inhabit our land today, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with the spiteful
minds. Yeah.
Right, the spiteful mind, and to cast it for a prey. Prophesied therefore concerning. So that just proves that our land is being inhabited by the descendants of Esau.
Hold tight right there for 1 second so the people can understand.
Okay,
it stated clearly that there were those who will be holding the land, all right, and that they will cast it out as prey, which simply means this: they're holding the land, and they're bringing in other people as a free-for-all to have them come in and occupy the land. So the people who are stating that they're Jews, they're pulling people from Asia, pulling from Africa, from all aspects of Europe, as well as in the Americas. And they're just kind of rounding them up and bringing them in because they're claiming that they're Jews. So they're pretty much just giving out the Most High's land. And that's what they're doing as it pertains to that scripture.
Deep. That's deep. And I am in absolute agreement with that, brother. That's deep. In verse 6, it says, prophesy therefore concerning the land of Israel, and say to the mountains and to the hills and to the rivers and the valleys, thus saith Yah thy power, behold, I have spoken in my jealousy and in my fury, because ye have borne the shame of the heathen. That's what everything the elder Lee just spoke about them casting out for prey, you know. They bear the shame of the heathen, that whole possession of them. Therefore, thus saith Yah. And this is, you know, these next two verses is to dispel that America can't possibly be the land, because we're in the land of our captivity. A lot of our people are in the land of America today, as far as the children of Israel is concerned. It says, therefore, thus saith Yah, I have lifted up my hands. Surely the heathen that are round about you shall bear their shame. But ye, verse 8, O mountains of Israel, ye shall shoot forth your branches, and yield your fruit to my people Israel, for what? That are at hand to come.
Oh, yeah.
So if we already in, you know, if America is supposed to be the land of Israel,
And we're already here.
you know, we are at hand to come.
Yeah.
We have not there yet. So that's just for those, the viewing audiences who might come across some YouTube or some people on there saying that the land of Israel is our land. That's not our land according to scripture.
Now hold that thought. Now keep in mind, good point that you just brought up, that the people, the Most High said his people are at hand to come. And once we return, the land would yield her increase. We will get the former latter rains. We will not be starved off the land like he starved us off the land, because he made the heavens brass, did he not? To where there will be no rain. We were starved off the land. So if we're already here and this is America, it doesn't make any sense, because where would we be coming from? That's number one. And why is many states within the United States they're still in a state of drought?
That's deep. Absolutely.
Most of the food that we eat is imported here. There's not enough stuff that comes forth from the land here to sustain the people that live here. So therefore, if the land is supposed to yield our increase, or we're supposed to get the former latter rains, that means that we should not be seeing any drought here.
Exactly.
And if we were already returned to the land, we shouldn't be seeing any violence here. And we should no longer be oppressed here. We would be able to lay down safely. And none should make us afraid. None of those things are happening here.
That's right.
Go ahead, brother, continue.
Is it no, that was, you know, I just wanted to show the people basically, you know, that last part of verse 8, you know, how can America be our land? You know, like Elder Lee just said, where are we coming from? You know what I mean? And I haven't read any scriptures. Maybe y'all can, you know, I haven't seen any scriptures where it says that we was going to be brought to our land as captive to our land. It said that we was going to be scattered into the land of our enemies. That's you know, right. So I haven't seen that we were going to be brought to our indigenous land to be a captive for other people. Anytime the Most High sent us into captivity, he would send us into other nations. So, yeah, you know, and I was just saying, you know, I bring this to the people, you know, to people that I converse with, and, you know, I never get an answer. You know, they never really have an answer to explain how that the Most High says we are at hand to come. If we already in America and we in our land, where are we coming from?
You know, I'll tell you this before we close. I do feel as though these different stances that's being taken. We're supposed to gather down in the Philippines. Utah is Israel. The mountain in Kenya is Israel. Kenya and Uganda and places like that, that's Israel. Palestine is Israel, et cetera, et cetera. I think that everyone is listening to everything. The smart person is trying to take all of this stuff in. And then they have to use a filter by which to filter it out. But at the same time, the Most High, those who are actually espousing his words in righteousness and in truth, they're going to be the ones that are going to shine bright like the firmament. So therefore, everyone is going to hear 3 or 4 things. And then the Most High is going to make this one thing plain. And that way the people will know exactly which way that they should walk. But I think all of this is just part of that process. That way people know exactly, okay, well, the Most High Spirit is upon XYZ who's speaking XYZ. And that way there'll be a clear distinction between those who will take the people in the path to dwell in the right way and those who will not. Not saying that those who are wrong are not trying to do that in righteousness and in truth. But the Most High is going to have some men he's going to have his spirit in their hearts to do that which is right. And those are going to be the men that's actually going to be elevated above everyone else, as was Moshe and our leaders in times past.
And the only way to find out what Yah has to say is by, I said it before, I'm going to say it again. People who are listening to this video, do yourselves a favor. Read the book. Read it. Don't take people's word for it. Read it. Read it. Get you a copy. You can get them cheap. Look, I ain't lying. I have a book. It's raggedy. This is King James Version book. I paid 33 cents for this book. It has all the pages. Some of it, they got it highlighted, so it was used. But it's 33 cents. Average American, brother, my sister, if you go in your living room right now and pull off the cushions off the couch, you could probably find 33 cents in the cushions of your couch. Most people can find 33 cents if they walk up and down the street. You find it and go to a thrift shop where they sell books and purchase these books. It's not expensive. Get yourself one. You got a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
You're paying how much for your cell phone?
I was just ready to say
cell phone bill.
They can just pull it up on the cell phone. They don't have
put
to
it up on the cell phone. It's free. You go to the App Store, Google Play, and get it for free. Free. That means you don't have to pay anything for it. Get it and read it. Read it, guys. You have to read this book. That's the only way you're going to get strong. That's the only way you're going to know what Yah says about anything. You're asking for your prayers to be answered? Read the book. Do what he says.
This is how Yah is amazing, because his word is so near that people can actually get this book to get his word for free. You know, like you said, you can just pull up on the app. So that way it's no excuse. Nobody on this whole earth has no excuse. I can guarantee you, even in the poorest villages in deep in Africa, everybody got a cell phone. You know what I mean? A smart that. So it's no excuse why you can't read this book. You know, he didn't brought it to you for free. It's near and right to you. You spend countless hours on your cell phone every day. You know what I'm saying? And he got it to the point where you can actually read this book on, on your phone, and you ain't got to pay nothing for it. So that's all Yah. That way nobody can say that he would have did it, if they had known. Everybody knows.
Everybody knows. Read the book. Don't substitute. I mean, it's good if you tune into this program. That's good. But read the book. You have to read yourself. I'll say that every time you see my face on here, you're going to see me say it. You have to read it. You can't substitute your learning by plugging into Facebook or YouTube or anything. Some of those things can help, but you have to read. You have to invest. Look. I'll give y'all a tip. People have investments. Some people invest in all sorts of things, but you got to read this book. Invest in your own salvation by reading the book. Take the time with a pure heart, with no bad intentions. See what Yah says. That's it. See what Yah says.
Indeed. And like you said, those are the viewing audience who's watching these programs like this. You know, like the elder said, you know, you have the tools in front of you to go back and search these matters that we putting forth on this panel right here. You know what I mean? You know, just go back and read the book. Don't take my word for it. Don't take the elder's word. Well, I would take the elder's word as far as the advice he just gave us to reading that book. Do that.
Yeah.
But information that's being put out, you know, it's near to you. You know, Yah is not, he doesn't, like he talks about in Isaiah 45, he doesn't speak in secrecy. He's straightforward. You know, he tells you exactly what he expects of us. You know what I mean? So, you know, like the elder just said, I definitely recommend that you read the book. And another thing, once you read the book and you understand it, to get more wisdom, like Elder Lee always, you know, regurgitating with that law, you got to apply that law. That's the only way you're going to be able to get the wisdom, understand exactly what's being put forth on these words. So, yeah, you know, like I said, all the information, you know, go back over it and just, you know, research it for yourself.
Okay. So we call it a day.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay.
Peace, brothers. Peace.
Yeah,
And
peace.
until next time,
Peace and
Henry,
y'all
you
bless
set up the next
everybody.
meeting. Peace and
Yeah.
y'all
Always
bless
good.
everyone.
Y'all
Okay.
bless.
That's it. I said, bro, all you brothers, I really appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. And for the viewing audience, you know, if Brother Lee manages to, I call him Brother Malachi. Brother Malachi manages to put the link in the description where you can see the Dawid's video. Yeah, look at it, but pick up that book and read what the book says. You know, don't go by what anybody else said. Read that book. See, anything that I'm telling you, I read the book. Read the book. Whatever we check out what we're saying. See if what we're telling you is true. Read the book and see if we're lying to you. And if we are, if you feel that we're lying to you, you know, let us know. Put a comment in the comment section. But read the book and see what it says.
What happened to Brother Kwame? I saw his face earlier. What happened?
No, Kwame. No, Kwame didn't. It was that was Dave.
No, I saw Kwame
Oh,
earlier
you
today.
say
I did.
Kwame? I didn't see.
You didn't see him?
No, I didn't
Come
see
on
him.
now.
I
Are you
didn't
for
see
real?
him.
Yeah, it wasn't Dave. It was
Yeah,
didn't see him?
Dave showed up briefly.
Okay.
But I was the first one to log in. Nobody was on. Then one day I stepped out the room. I closed my little visor here. I want to step out the room. I came back. I saw Henry, and I pulled my visor up and I said hello. And Dave came on, but he was having trouble. He said, "I'm not gonna be able to stay with y'all long. I'm having trouble." And then after that, I think it was you, Malachi, and then Brother Dawid came.
Yeah, I could have swore I saw Brother Kwame on there. He was trying to come in. He came in for a hot second, I think. Question: how is the health of Brother Dave? Because I know the last time we saw him, he was on death's door.
No, yeah,
he's
Dave's
much
okay.
better.
Yeah, he's
look good.
much better.
Good. That's good to hear.
Brother, I forget his name. The dark-skinned brother.
Delvin.
Yeah, Delvin. Yeah, the guy that was out in Turkey. How's he doing?
Delvin's got some. Talk to him. He says he's got some family things going on, so he couldn't make it.
Okay. Did you know is he still in Europe or did he go back?
Yeah, he's still in England. He's still in the UK.
Oh, okay. Well, give my peace and blessings to him. When you get a chance.
Yeah.
Give them my regards. Certainly.
Okay.
Peace and y'all bless to all you brothers.
Peace and y'all bless.
Peace and y'all bless.
You know, there you go.
Peace.
Okay. Cool.
God bless.
Okay. Peace. Nice.
Peace.